Alright, hello. So we are doing a speed paint today. So I get to walk you guys through the process because I actually hit record this time. Isn't it great? So we're doing Nana. And I've done a Nana drawing before. Didn't work out. So we're doing it again. For the piece, I kind of just wanted her... I referenced this one image I found on Pinterest. This girl, she was like walking through Japan in an oversized leather jacket. And I had a song playing at the same time. I think, I might get the name wrong. The singer's name was Biba Doobie, and the song was called One Time. And my brain was like, wow, this would be a good Nana piece to this song. And the only people that know is me, Instagram, and the people who saw it, because unfortunately, Instagram is the only place where you can post a picture with music. But the concept still lives on in my heart. Anyways, I had a lot of fun working on the sketch. I wanted a good balance between the live action and the anime, which I think I got pretty well. Her hair was interesting to do because in the live action, her hair's darker. In anime, her hair is a bit lighter and it's softer. So I wanted like an auburn kind of thing going on. Because I think in the live action, her hair is just more brown. At least in my eyeballs. So I feel like it could have been a bit more red in there. At least from how I see Hachi. Which we'll say Hachi, so I don't say Nana twice. The concept was really cute, and it just looks like she would be in Nana's leather jacket. And here I'm planning out the background. Okay, I'll say this. Plan more. Plan your background out more. I definitely struggle with this because there just wasn't enough planning, and I didn't take the time that I feel like I should have with the background. And it ended up kind of, in my eyes, at one point falling apart, and I had to put the pieces back together. So for this part, we're adding in color, and what I like to do, and I think I mentioned in the previous video, and I think I also got it from the mini grayscale to color tutorials I watched, because I don't exactly do that, but there's some elements. You want to go in with, when you're painting your flat colors underneath, and then you have a sketch layer on top, and everything looks kind of washed out and gray, you want to get that gray out the way, just go in with the overlay filter, color it in with like an orange or red, or depending on the skin tone of the character you're drawing. And that helps fill in that color, so you don't have to do a complete paint over that area. So you can still keep a lot of the elements intact that you had. So after laying her colors out, I go in, I color correct some things, add more brightness, contrast, and then we move on to kind of laying out some colors for the background as well, just so I can see where everything's gonna be, the street. Like, I don't do anything too harsh yet. And I also end up using an asset in the background, which we'll talk about that in a bit. But I did want to touch on, I have fun doing the jacket. I love, when I can, and I actually added in my drawings for once, doing different fabrics. So I've done silk before, but I don't have that drawing currently. It was for an art contest that I missed out on. We're not even going to get into that, but Yeah, so painting fabric can be really fun, especially when you see how light reflects off of it, and once you just get that grasp of it, it just adds a whole other element to your drawing. Now, back to the background, because I did say I used an asset. I use Clip Studio Paint, so there's a ton of different assets you can get in there and use. I went for windows for the right side, as you can see, of the drawing. So she's in Japan in the reference image, and I got windows that are, I guess, typically more seen in Japan. That's what the asset was, and I was able to integrate that into the drawing and still kind of have my own twist on it. So it didn't make the drawing exactly a one-to-one. I mean, it pretty much is, but you still want to add your own flavor, maybe, or you can do a one-to-one. Don't matter, that's up to you. And I also feel like, from what I've learned as well while doing this, because it's not perfect either, and I don't want to sound like a hypocrite when I'm telling you, like, I don't want to be like, oh, you need to do this. But it's good to observe and know what you might be doing wrong. You might want to use assets, but you got to make sure you know how to use them, how to angle them, how to put them down. At some point in the drawing, I put bikes in there that are an asset, but I could have detailed them better. So they're kind of just sitting in there, and you can tell that they're an asset. You still can go over them and detail them a bit if you want, or just, again, know how you're placing it. And the bikes, they have a look of more like what I see people use to like fill in different spaces in webtoons and stuff. It's really up to you, but when it comes down to it, when you're drawing, you're gonna have things you want to look a certain way, and you might not like how they look if they're not sitting right in your drawing. You have to make it your own. And that brings up another topic too. Not exactly the same, but when it comes to brushes, this depends on what you need these brushes for. So if you're going in from a perspective of you're trying to learn anatomy, you're trying to learn how to draw, but you think that a brush will make it better, not necessarily. I can see why you would think that. There's like two different perspectives. And then there's like a design perspective where you're like, oh, I want to add some more stylization to my drawing. I want to add different designs to it. Then I get going ahead and trying to seek out those brushes. So you have to really know what you need it for. If you're going in with the mindset that a drawing is going to make your anatomy look better or anything else look better, that's probably not the way to go about it. So it just depends on your mindset. You'll get what I mean. I hope it's coming out right, if it makes sense. So, but let me know if it makes sense. At this point, I pretty much darkened everything. I love the reflection in that one window that I did. That was pretty fun to do. And there's another element here that I eventually put, well, we might see it while I'm talking, but for the building on the right, I felt like it was too saturated. There was a lot in here that was too saturated. So instead of going in and desaturating everything, I went in and I put a filter, and then I chose color. I chose the color gray. So I put the filter named color, and I chose a color that was more gray, white. It didn't have color in it. And I lightly went over the drawing, and it helped desaturate certain parts that were just too saturated, like you can see. So it looks way better, in my opinion, more realistic, not too vibrant, which I love vibrance, but it has to kind of make sense of where you're putting it, because it can be a bit overwhelming and harsh on the eyes to look at, especially depending on where your focus is in the drawing as well. You'll also notice throughout, like underneath, you can see the balcony in the background. I had to correct some of that color in there just to make sure things aligned and made sense. Make sure that you're not missing those points where you have to put flyers on the door. You can see over on the left, I ended up adding those flyers in there because it's just gonna look empty. So you want the world that you're painting or drawing to have those elements. Another thing that I like to do is use Google Maps. It is super convenient. You can use it to your advantage. You can go anywhere in the world, just about. Not every single street is mapped, so you're kind of cooked if you're very specific, I guess. But it just really helps to really get to know your environment, where you're at, what elements are usually there. You can look directly at that street and be like, oh, they have a lot of these in this area, a lot of that in this area. So it just helps add more elements and a twist on your drawings. So now we start getting into the bag. I actually referenced the bag from a bag that I actually own by KYLA. So that's coming up in a second. And I used another asset. I used a zipper. And so for this asset, I had to make sure that I mapped the zipper around the bag correctly. So pay attention to stuff like that. And you're not always going to get everything 100% correct and accurate when you're first doing it. Or if you're doing it a few times, it's just not going to be perfect. But to be able to observe and know that something's off, that you can tell, especially if you're referencing something and you know that the anatomy on whatever that you're working on isn't, like, it doesn't fully make sense. That's just a good skill to have. You have to be able to see your work. Maybe you want to ask people. It depends on how you feel about criticism as well. But that can be very helpful, having outside eyes looking in. I also use a stitch asset that just kind of came in handy. I found it on a whim the other day on Clip, and I put stitches around the bag as well. So that was pretty cool to do. Also, the reason I chose the koi soda bag is because I see a lot of people with the bag also put Nana charms on them, different anime charms, so I thought it would be cute, and just throw in a little strawberry on it as well. Now, also on the background, I added in some motion blur. I wanted to feel like she was walking. Now, at first, I added a duplicate of her and then motion blur the duplicate behind her. That didn't work out too well, so I ended up deleting that and just fluffing out the edges. So, it looked better that way instead of a harsh line and a soft background. Like, you can tell it's duplicated. Eventually I add in snow and all these things to make the drawing more so how I want it to look, my own little twists on it. I think it came out really well. There's a lot of stuff that I realized throughout this that I still need to work on, but I had fun at the same time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it gave a lot of detail. If you have any more questions or certain elements I added in there you wanted to know, you can just ask me in the comments and I shall answer. And as usual, I stream on Twitch. I'm on Patreon. Socials in the description. And have a great day. See you guys.